mamas! Okay, so I'm super excited to talk about today because it is the first episode of what I'm calling the foundational episodes that explain more about what my podcast is about. It's all about partnering with God and how to do that and what it means and everything in relationship to it. So I am super excited. Today, we will actually be talking about relationship and building that relationship with God. What it means and connecting with Him and the type of relationship that we have with Him. And I am super excited for it. I also want to let you know that this is not going to be a sequential series. So I'm not going to be doing the first one this week and then next week doing the second foundational one. I do want to split it up a little bit so that it's not so much thrown at you that you just get overwhelmed and don't want to listen anymore. So with that being said, I'm super excited to start this episode, so let's dive in. Welcome to the Mamas Partnering with God podcast. I am your host, Molly Bunnell, mom, wife, and Jesus lover, and this is where we tackle life struggles with the help and guidance from God. In this podcast, you will find God-led solutions through partnering with God in your life. My mission is to equip you with the tools that will bring you closer to God, allowing you to find faith, hope, and peace so that you can tackle marriage, motherhood, and finances with ease. It can be so easy to let the world run your life, but what do you get from that? Pain, heartache, struggle? But with God as your solution and creating a God-led lifestyle, hope, joy, and peace are just knocking at your door. So, if you're ready to finally team up with God, doing things in His strength instead of your own, you better turn that Mickey Mouse on for your kids and plug in those headphones, mama, so we can go partner with God. Okay, so like I said, I am super excited to start this episode. I want to give you a little bit of an overview as to why I wanted to talk about it. So building a relationship with God is super important to me, and I am super excited to help you through it as well. And when I started thinking about this topic and trying to write down what it is that I wanted to say, I went off about the types of relationships that you can have. And I realized as I sat down to record this that that's not exactly what I wanted to talk about. Relationship that I wanted to talk about was how to build it and connecting and how God wants us to be with Him. And I am super excited that I didn't record this the day that I first started writing this outline, because God opened my eyes to the true meaning behind building a relationship with Him and actually partnering with Him. So it's not just like we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about a relationship and what it means and the types there are. No, we're actually talking about building a relationship with God. And it's super important and it's super fun. So yeah, that's kind of the background behind this topic. But it's something that I needed from the beginning. As I'm sure you can relate with, building a relationship is not easy. And when you talk about building a relationship with God, most of the time, people tell you to go read the Bible. And they'll tell you that that's where you will find all of the answers, which I'm not saying is wrong. I mean, there's so much good in the Bible, but you can only get so much out of it if you aren't already in connection and relation with God. I like to refer to it as if you are Facebook stalking somebody, because if you're just reading the Bible, you're not going to get a whole lot out of it. Instead, all you're going to get from it is facts. You're going to get stuff that has less emotion behind it. And when you read it, it's just going to leave your brain because, again, there's no emotion keeping it connected to your brain. And it's that emotion that builds that relationship, that connects, that makes sense. And that's exactly what we want. We don't just want to Facebook stalk somebody or feel like we're reading a history book, because that's what I felt. When I was younger, I read through the Bible. I mean, it took almost 4 years because of how I was reading the Bible. I'm not a slow reader, but I would sit down every night before bed and I would read, depending on how long it was, a chapter or a section of a story. So I wouldn't read like a whole bunch. I would just read a little bit at a time so that hopefully I would retain it and understand it. But I didn't. I mean, when I sat down and I was super excited, I was like, yeah, I just read through the Bible. I'm so excited. Woohoo. But then I sat down and I'm like, yeah, I may have just read through the Bible, but I couldn't tell you any more stories or characters or lessons or anything new that I didn't already know from going to church, going to Bible school, and from all of those who around me talked about God. I mean, nothing stuck. I didn't have a relationship with God. There was no emotion behind reading it. It was just like reading a history book, like I said. I felt nothing from the Bible, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. Everyone talks about the Bible being this amazing thing and how God speaks to you through the Bible, but I didn't get that. And even as I got older and I would read more of the Bible, it still was just like a history book. Until one day I finally built that connection with God. And then as I started to read, things made sense. Things connected, things stayed in my brain. I was able to retain it so much better. And it was just like a click of a switch, a flick of a switch. I said that wrong. It's okay. But that's the way it was. It was so amazing how much just building a small connection with God made. And we think that building a relationship with God is difficult, but in all reality, it's just like building a relationship with anybody new, anybody you don't know. And sometimes that can be scary, but it's really not hard because you just sit down and you talk. Yeah, sometimes talking isn't easy, but the concept behind it is pretty simple. And when you think about it, talking to God is so much easier than trying to build up the courage to talk to somebody that you don't know. But we think when we build relationships with new people, we think of icebreakers. Well, in this case, God has already broke the ice. He's come to you. He sent Jesus to die on the sins for our... He sent Jesus to die on the cross for our sins. He is constantly supporting us through the thick and thin. And in order to feel this and see it happen all around you, you have to be willing to open your heart and let him in. And it's as simple as talking to him. Like, that's all you have to do is talk to God. And that relationship comes. It just forms out of thin air. One day it's not there, the next day it's there, which is so amazing. So how do you connect with those around us? Well, like I said, we talk to people. We use our words, and even though God can hear our thoughts and our silent prayers, he still wants us to physically speak with him, because it takes two to have a conversation. God will speak to you, but you have to be willing to return the conversation. I mean, me, if it was a one-sided conversation, I tend to just turn the other way and stop talking because I'm like, yeah, if you're not going to try, then I'm not going to try. The amazing thing is God won't do that. God is not going to leave you just because you don't want to talk. However, you're not going to build that deeper relationship with Him if you don't speak to Him. So, what does building a relationship and connecting with God do for us? I mean, I've just told you how to build that connection, which is just through talking. It's so easy, but at the same time, it's not. But when you build that connection through talking, it builds trust. It allows us to feel and see His love and support that has already been there, but we never noticed before because, like I said, it was just like opening a history book or Facebook stalking Him. There was no emotions, there was no affection, and that's what building a relationship does. It gives us affection towards each other on both sides. His has already been there for years, like before we were even born. He built a book on us. Wrote a book on us, my bad. But it's so satisfying. I couldn't think of the word there. It's so satisfying to know that He loves us and He trusts us, and that we in turn trust Him and we love Him, and we are now allowing Him to support us through the struggle, through the joy, through everything that we need help with, and things that friends can't help us with because maybe we don't know how to put it into words, but God understands and He can still support us without speaking. But by speaking, we were able to create that relationship, the feelings, the love, the support. And I mean, if you can't tell, like, I love everything that building a relationship does with God. And I just talking about it right now, I can feel Him inside of me and like the butterflies that I'm getting because it brings so much joy and excitement to my life. And isn't that what we want? We want to feel safe, to be heard, to be understood, supported, trusted. We want to feel like someone cares about what we have to say, what we have to think, and what we do. Connection is such a huge desire for everyone. And when we don't get it from where we think we should, we go out and we find it in other places in the world. And a good amount of the time, these places in the world are not healthy alternatives. They're not things that are good for the spirit, for the soul, for the mind, for the heart. Sometimes they break great relationships, and sometimes they can, just put us in a place that we shouldn't be mentally and emotionally, and it just tears us down. But by building a connection with God and that relationship with God, it allows you to understand the Bible in many ways that I never thought possible. As I now have a stronger, still growing relationship with God, I'm able to understand the Bible in ways that I never could have imagined, especially when I was just Facebook stalking Him. And now God speaks to me through the Bible in the circumstances that I'm currently facing, and what it is that I'm reading now, I may understand differently later on when I read it again. And that's the amazing thing about the Bible and how they say that the word is, what do they say? That it's flowing and alive. That's the word, alive. The Bible is alive, and it's because in each circumstance, we can get something different out of each Bible verse, which totally blows my mind. And once I experienced it, it was so amazing. And that's what I hope for you, is to build this connection so that you can partner with God in everything that you do. It's that first step in order to be where it is that you want to be in life, in knowing God, in relationship with God. And He uses the Bible to heal wounds and to open your eyes to situations that you never would have thought of before. But you cannot get that without first building that connection with God. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit also about the type of relationship that we are building with God. In many places throughout the Bible, God mentions that He's our Father. I mean, it only makes sense. He is the one who created us, and in His image nonetheless, which is so amazing. He desires such a strong connection with us that He would even make us look like Him to strengthen that connection even more. I mean, I love animals, and if you're an animal lover, I know that you do as well, but there's only so much of a connection you can build with an animal because, one, there's a language barrier. Two, you don't exactly look the same, so you don't feel as connected. I mean, when you walk into a room, where do you go to? People that you feel connected to, and if they look alike by their clothes or something that you make them feel like they are connected, then that's what you're going to be drawn to. And if you compare that relationship from your animals to that relationship that you have with your husband, there's no way it can compare, because you don't look the same, you don't sound the same. There's a language barrier, like I said, and it's so difficult to build that connection past a certain point. We connect better and stronger with those that are the same, and it's true. That's why God built us in His image, so that our connection is stronger. I mean, that just excites me thinking about that He would love us and want to have a connection with us so much that He would make us look like Him in order to first and foremost, be an icebreaker, I guess, to cultivate that relationship that He wants to have with us, which is so amazing. I'm like smiling over here on the other side just talking about this. But to make it even better, He symbolizes our relationship as a father-daughter relationship because it is one of the strongest relationships out there. He's not here to be our friend, because friends, if you look on the surface, only bring about thoughts of fun and joy and relaxation. I mean, think of it. When you think of your friends, what do you want to do? You want to go out and have fun. You want to enjoy yourself and get out of the house and out of your mind and stop thinking about the stressful things of life. Whereas when you think of a fatherly relationship, on the surface, it means love. It means teaching. It means support, safety, mentoring, guidance, truth, understanding, and so much more. Things that may come out of a friendship, but will always come out of the Father. And it's so amazing to think of that, because that's what we want. That's what we desire. We want somebody to be there for us, to support us, to love us, to teach us. And sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes when He says no, it's not what we want, but it's what we need. And it just makes our connection and our bond even stronger because He said no. And once we realize why He said no, and we're able to understand the things that He knows deep about that we only know surface level of, it's so amazing. God has plans for us, plans that, like I said, have been written down long before we even came to this earth. And that's what's going to be the thing that strengthens our connection with him, by understanding what it is that he's doing for us, and the love and the support and the safety. And I feel like a broken record, but it's so amazing once you understand what it is that I'm talking about and you have experienced it, because it's that experience that strengthens it even more. And that's why I said earlier that my relationship is still growing, and it will always continue to grow. And it's so amazing at each level, the new things that you learn. God is so amazing that he wants so badly for us to be here. Like, he wants to be there for us. He has already made the first move, and now it's our time to make that second move, to build that connection, that relationship that we also crave, so that we can start partnering with God. All it takes is opening your mouth and talking to him. If that feels weird, then pull out a journal and write to him. I've done both. My first connection that I had with him was through talking. I mean, I didn't have anyone around except for horses, because I worked at a stable and I would walk horses out every morning and every evening. So when I was walking 30 horses out, I had like an hour to kill while I'm standing there, and I'm not going to talk to the horse. So I talked to God, and it built a connection that I craved when I came back home, because I didn't do that. I felt awkward talking out loud to God. So then I switched to journaling, and ever since, it's so amazing to see the changes in me on paper. Even how at the beginning everything was all about me, and as things change, it's just changed. It's been to more things about thanking him, and I can't even put it into words. I'm struggling to think about what it is that I'm trying to say, but it's connection that only you and him can have, and it's amazing. But it starts with you taking action, and I hope that you do. I mean, I have a Facebook group that I would love for you to come over to and put what it is that you want to do. What are you going to do? What action are you going to take? Are you going to journal? Are you going to talk to him out loud? Do you have a time in where it doesn't feel awkward to do that? Or do you just want to sit down and actually have focused time? I know that's another reason why I started journaling, because I needed the focused time. I was trying to pray and I just couldn't stay focused. My mind would wander so much. And then once I started journaling, it was so much easier to empty my thoughts out onto this piece of paper. And then it was like therapeutic, because it was gone. It's like I had literally given my struggles to God, and he had lifted them off of me because they were no longer in my brain. But I digress. As I was saying, I would love you to come over and join us in the Facebook group, Mama's Partnering with God. I will put the link in the show notes so that you can easily find us, so that you can come and share your takeaways from this episode, because I know you have had to have gotten some amazing downloads that I pray the Lord put into your soul for, and I would love to hear what they are. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time. Hey Mama, before you head out, if this episode has blessed you in any way, would you please go and leave a written review over on Apple Podcasts so that it can reach, bless, and impact many other mamas the way it has you? I also want to personally invite you to come and join me and many other like-minded mamas over in my free Facebook group. I would love to hear your thoughts, answer your questions, and keep this conversation going. Praying God continues to bless you. See you next time.